Maybe can you write in the chat if you are back so we can prepare, so we can start the Q&A session? Great. So yeah, to start the Q&A session now, we would like to invite the speakers back on stage, both online and offline. Great. Yeah. Hello? Hello?
Yeah, can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, so to start the discussion session, we would like to open first to the audience. If you have any questions to the speakers' presentations today, both via Zoom, via YouTube, or in person here in Munich. Is there anyone on YouTube asking? Is there anyone on YouTube asking? Okay, since there is no one, there is a question from Munich. Maybe you can come up so then people online can also hear.
Okay, so where should I stand? Here? Oh, here? All right. Okay. So, hello everyone. I'm Jaskar Oscario. I'm currently a student, a bachelor student at the TU Munich, studying management and technology. And yeah, I'd like to ask some questions, especially to Iqbal right here. So, you mentioned a lot about the coal industry and how significant it is to the current and possibly still to the future Indonesian economy, and how that might conflict with the international SDGs and of course with the current zeitgeist of sustainability. So my question would be, and you said a lot about how the reluctance, at least, of leaving coal in the local area where the coal industry plays a big part, is also due to the fact that people are afraid they will lose um, their jobs, they could feed themselves. So my question would be with is that would introducing new skills or implementing proper tech transfer public policies that would allow these regions to take in new technology and new skills in order to be able to transition to renewable resources be beneficial and would increase the willingness of the local government and the local people to leaving coal in the future, especially since taking an example on how places that used to be prosperous with coal in other places in the world, such as the Appalachian Mountains in the US, for instance, or in northern England, in cities like Yorkshire. These cities used to prosper a lot through coal, and then they became quite poor ever since coal left, and that's why their politics became populist, and the people are left dissatisfied. And of course, we don't want this happening to Indonesia once we, at some point are coerced to leave coal. So yeah, do you think tech transfer would make that process easier? Thank you.
Thank you, Mas. Do we keep the questions or? Okay. Thank you so much for the question. I'm not the most expert person to actually answer this. I think actually Salsa have more knowledge about this. But from my perspective, short answer, not only yes, but it's the only way. because knowledge development, technology transfers, things like that, it's evolving in a speed that we cannot even imagine. And that's would only be the way how these coal regions, we call it coal regions, to actually survive this energy transition. I've heard some of our colleagues, especially working in the just energy transition topics, digitalization is one of the key pillars in making just energy transition happening. So we don't want that to happen in future, that some people feel, they bear the cost for leaving the coal. But yeah, in my perspective, that would be the only answer. But I would welcome Salsa actually.
Yes, I can build upon your answer. So actually, my organization, New Climate Institute, they have conducted research on how to implement and carry out just energy transition in Indonesia. And currently, if you know and have ever heard of the partnership scheme between the developed and developing countries, it's called the Just Energy Transition Partnerships. It aims to retire coal power plants in coal-dependent countries like Indonesia. And the money is flowing from, for example, the US or the EU. And my organizations identified that there are at least three main barriers to make sure that the transition is just. So the first barrier is skills gap. Second is location, and the last one is salary, as you mentioned. And I will explain a bit about this each of these barriers. So for skill gap, we know that as the industry transition from coal heavy industries to renewable, we need to reskill and retrain the workers so they are not left behind. And if we are to further deep dive into the overlap of the skills of their workers, there are high skilled jobs with transferable qualifications like different types of engineer, electrical, mechanical, and so on. But there are also lower skilled jobs, like in the coal mining, that is not really transferable. And these lower skilled jobs, they need further retraining, like up to 2 years for additional training to actually can enter the renewable industry. But I guess, yeah, it's the only way to for the coal workers community to transition to renewables. And I believe we can do this by expanding the educational facilities, the curriculum, as quick as possible. And some of the JETP, the Just Energy Transition Partnership Funds, can be earmarked for this retraining to cover this cost. And the second is location. We cannot overlook that the fact that coal production is actually concentrated in Kalimantan, but the renewable energy potential, it's mostly concentrated in Bali, Java, Nusa Tenggara. So there may be geographical shift to meet these employment needs, and we need also funds to support the relocation of these families, so they can access these new jobs, and cover the living costs, and support the relocation, because they are already suffering from the loss of community, the culture, and the place, right? And maybe the last one is salary. It is essential to recognize that coal workers, despite them having lower skill, like no high qualifications of education, they tend to be well paid in coal because of the premium for compensating their occupational health hazard, as well as they have strong labor union, and there is a potential drop of income. And I believe that the JETP funds must also recognize this, and could offer like a temporary allowance of income, like for a defined period of time, so they can continue with the retraining, reskilling, and get the financial support that they need. And yeah, I still believe that just energy transition is a must, and we cannot leave anyone behind, especially the soon to be displaced coal workers. I think, yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Maybe just to add a little bit, because you mentioned about technology transfer, and if you remember our result of research, that actually the economies of Indonesia further would be more on the industry side. So not only from the just energy transition for the people, but also it's challenging for the industry. And this is where innovation actually comes in place, and technology transfer is a must. Like, for example, for metal industry, it's a hard to abate industry. They need heat. If we ask them to change into electricity, basically you give them an electric oven. Does it work? They need to implement new kinds of technologies, and they need to make new investments, things like that. But it's needed, yes, because we want more electrification, so then we can control those electricities produced by the cleaner sources. Like, for example, I just discussed with Mas Torik this morning that he actually has a master thesis on laser, and he accidentally cut things with his lasers. This, for example, is a true example how your innovation as a student can be used in the industry for supporting energy transition. He's not working like green, I'm eating tofu. No, but with his experience, with his knowledge, he can support this, implementing industry towards more electrified industry, for example.
Thank you. Very detailed question, also very detailed answer. Thank you. So now, any more questions from the audience? Maybe to Bu Jessica, perhaps. Great. There's one.
Yes. Okay. Hello everyone. My name is Izizat, and I'm currently studying at TUM, majoring in management. So I have a question to Bu Jessica. Recently, the EU just applied the carbon border adjustment mechanism, and I would love to know what will be the implications for the implementation of this kind of mechanism, especially for Indonesia.
Thank you for your question. So basically, at the moment, the industry that is affected by the CBAM is the iron and steel industry. If I'm not mistaken, around 10 to 12% of our iron and steel industries goes to the to exports to the European markets. So that is quite significant, actually, even though it seems like only 10, 12%. What happened is for the industries, they started to be asked about environmental product declaration. That's one for the green for the steel industry. However, the government is trying to I think in a way to improve the industry, steel and iron industry as well, because not all of them are maybe ready for that. Only a few are ready. And I think there are some work to be done by the government to follow up on the CBAM. Yeah, but definitely the most impacted industry is the steel industry. So at the moment, very few of them have started to have EPD to answer the global market, not only the EU, on carbon declaration and environmental product declaration. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. Yeah.
Thank you for your answer, Bu Jessica. Now there seems...
Maybe if I'm
Yeah, please,
Mas
go ahead.
Aji, if to add on the first question actually on energy transition, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I feel like with the, for example, the coal industry or especially the coal industry, the highest impact of the coal based on our LCA is in the power plant. So if we can upgrade our power plants from the subcriticals to, let's say, super or even ultra, that would be the cleaner option where we can still utilize our resources and not impacting the environment. So the challenge is how we can get a cleaner technology if we are still going to use coal. That would be one of the challenges as well, because the results of our LCAs states that is the highest emission in power plants.
Great. Thank you, Bu Jessica, for adding to the first question. It seems, yeah, there's a lot of interest in coal, and if anyone ends up working for the coal industry, we will invite them to the next PPI Munich Volume X in 5-10 years time, and hopefully they can share their experience there. Yeah, so now there is another question first from the Zoom audience. So to all speakers, do you think it's possible for Indonesia to transition to more renewable energy sources? And this is the hard part. If so, how long do you think it will take us? So yeah, maybe any speaker wants to answer first?
Maybe I go first.
Yeah,
if I
go
may.
ahead, Bu Jessica, please.
Many industries are transitioning to biomass because the biomass actually is quite easier to be used in conjunction with the coal. If they have an existing coal power plant, coal power generation, it's easier. They can just throw in the biomass there. So it's quite practical, but the challenge in the biomass is to have the source and to have continuous sources. And another one is for the actual calorific value, yeah, because with the coal it can goes up to 3,500, sometimes 5,500. And this one is quite difficult to be achieved by the biomass. So if the industries don't need to have very high calorific value, they can use the biomass. That's for the using biomass, which is more and more practice nowadays, using kernels from palm oils or kernels from candle nuts, rice husk compacted, and many other bio pellets. For solar power, there is even though it is getting traction as well for the solar power. However, in Java, at the moment the PLN is what do you call it, overload. Yeah, they are actually overload. So that is why there are some difficulties, I would say, for having the solar photovoltaic installed. So at the moment, the license is only maybe up to 10 or 15% of the capacity of the industry, limited to that because of the overloads in Java, Java Madura Bali grid. Another challenge that I also received from in the Australian Essay Conference, actually, because one of the participants were presenting on the end of life of the solar PV. Unfortunately, some of the solar PV cannot be recycled. Yeah, there is low value of resources in there, so they end up at least in Australia, they end up in landfill because there is no economic value or to recycle it. So that means a higher cost to recycle or to recover than to leave it in the landfill. So sorry, to get the resources to urban mine, that kind of thing. So when we have solar PV, we have to consider also both in the not only in the usage stage, because it feels like it's free, but actually in the production is very energy intensive, resource intensive, and the end of life is still can also potentially be a problem. So there is some consideration that we need to think. But everybody is trying their effort to transition to renewable energy, of course. But I don't know how long it will take. Yeah, there should be another study for that.
Yes,
Thanks.
thank you for your answer. It's a good point, and that's maybe a bit of promotion on life cycle assessment, because that's why we all say energy transition, but also for this you need resources, and by doing life cycle assessment you can see the whole life cycle, and then you know that there are also issues in actually producing the devices needed for energy transition. And then you also, in Europe especially, you have the criticality issue, because there are specific metals needed to produce all of this, and they mostly come from China. And then it's also a political discussion if we want to be dependent or not. But yes, we have Mas Iqbal, who is expert in dealing with politicians, and maybe he can provide more insight.
Not expert. I'm just a worker. Maybe just a little bit adding to that question, to that answer. Actually, as Bu Jessica just mentioned, we have oversupply. So we have this thing in the power system. There's this thing called reserve margin. So basically, we have, for example, Indonesia produce 100%, and the used one is only 60%, for example. So we have a reserve margin for more or less 39 to 40%. What do they need it for? For example, anything. Some economies having New Year's Eve, for example, the demand of electricity will be high. So then they would need. What else? COVID, for example, I don't know. It will be lower. So it actually never been, it never remained the same level of electricity consumption. Now, as Jessica mentioned, we have a lot of oversupply, especially in Java. If your question is it possible to deploy renewable energy in Indonesia? It is possible with a reason. We need to develop our economies, or else we don't need more electricity. We need more industry. We need more economic activities, basically. That's why, if you have heard about this KEK, Kawasan Ekonomi Khusus in Indonesia, government is always speaking about that right now. They make a lot of, 30, 40 KEKs right now, basically inviting investors to invest in Indonesia, to actually absorb the abundant electricity that currently we have. But if it's just in the current condition, we kind of don't need more electricity. But yeah, maybe you want to add?
Yes, actually, in my thesis, I quite explored the challenges of deploying more renewables in Indonesia from the perspective of financial institutions. And I heard from them that they deem renewable energy projects as risky because conventionally speaking, the bank's business model, they want short-term profits, but renewable energy projects tend to be a long-term one. So there is a mismatch there, and renewable energy also entails high upfront costs, particularly, for example, for geothermal. In the survey and exploration stage, there is a high chance for the well to be not working well, not potential enough to be a source of electricity, and this is compounding the effects of technological barriers that Jessica and Iqbal have mentioned about the oversupply, and also there is pros and cons of choosing one renewable over the other. For example, geothermal, they are risky, but they can provide a reliable base load. But for wind and solar, they're very intermittent, so we need to deploy also energy storage for it. And for gas, maybe it's not as clean, but it can be used as a picker, like a picker power plant. And yeah, there is always a pros and cons of choosing this clean and renewable technology. And the question about how fast are we getting there, it actually depends on the enabling factors provided by the government, like the finance, the policy, the behavioral change, and mechanism like carbon pricing, carbon tax, ETS, and so on. Technology development as well, like the maturity of carbon capture and storage, to be employed for the coal power plants and so on. So I guess yeah, it's a very complicated question. It depends on like the keberpihakan of these stakeholders.
Thank you for your answers. Yes, it's very complicated. I think you can make 5 PhDs from this question. Hopefully you will be one of them, if not more. Yeah. So now, any more questions from the audience, Zoom and so on? Okay, there is from the audience. Where is the mic? This one? Sorry.
Hello everyone. I'm Adam from Malaysia. So we Malaysian and Indonesian, we have the same problem. Our country is very car dependent. Our public transportation is really not that good. So even though we have electronic vehicles, but we still use coal to generate electricity. So in your opinion, what is the best way to reduce our dependency on fuel? And the second question is for Dr. Jessica. From your slide, I see that you also work with Sinarmas, the biggest oil palm company in Indonesia. So do you agree that oil palm is the most problematic industry in the agriculture business? So, thank you.
So yeah, would you like to answer that first, Bu Jessica, or?
I will answer the last question first. Palm oil is a bit political, yeah, because we have done studies, and also the palm oil industries have done studies, yeah. The palm oil in fact is 7 times more productive than any other oils that is currently used in the European market, yeah. So I feel that palm oil is more political trade wars rather than environmental, because when you open a land for, let's say, 1 hectare, and for the other commodities you will need 7 hectares for that, then you can calculate how much the environmental impact, if you're talking about environmental impact. The problem is that in Indonesia or in Malaysia, we are still have primary forests. Yeah, that is our luck, I would say. But in European land or in other land that produces the other commodities, it is already an open land that they opened, hundreds of years ago. So it is not seen as if they open land, deforested that one. So it is our luck that we are just about to grow. We are just about to develop using our natural resources, our own resources, that this thing come up. So I would not say that being sustainable, we don't promote sustainability. Of course we promote sustainability. They have to be sustainable, but we have to be open as well. Is there any agendas out there I know this is live stream. I'm sorry. Hopefully, I'm not going to be blacklisted or something. But there are traits here that we cannot see, but it is an option. So I'm just stating the fact of that 7 times more productivity to the other commodities comparison. Thank you.
Yes, maybe I can answer the first question regarding transport. I know that it's a very complicated issue. It's one of the wicked derivation of wicked problems that we face from climate crisis. And I guess to decarbonize transport, we need a multi-pronged approach. And I would say that the first fundamental one is to decarbonize these end-use sectors with electricity. So we have to electrify the vehicles, but it's important to note that it's only maybe light-duty vehicles, like the electric, like the 4 wheels or 2-wheelers or 3-wheelers. And we have seen the support that is being encouraged in Indonesia right now. So in Indonesia, the government just launched subsidies for private private vehicles. But I think the other most important measure is to also encourage the public to shift from private vehicle to public transportation. That's important. Like that's equality. Those are measures that are equally important. And the second thing is decarbonizing medium to heavy duty vehicles, like for shipping, trucks, and so on. We need to encourage more development and research on green hydrogen. It's still the technology readiness level is like still low, and we need to push it so we don't have to depend on fuel anymore. And maybe the last one is to have a systems level approach, where we also include urban planners, for example. I think one of the reasons why Indonesians are very car dependent, it's because our cities are designed to be to rely on cars, right? The public transport coverage, it's not so good, so people naturally they tend to use private vehicles. So yeah, we also need a systemic change from that point of view. And yeah, I guess the last one is also to have this behavioral change and cultural shift, because maybe in Indonesia or Malaysia, having cars can be seen as a social status, and we need to change that perspective. Like using public transport is also cool. Yeah, maybe that's it for me.
May I know your major? Are you into agriculture? Yeah. Right. Okay. So I want to share a bit with this, Bang Adam, to you, is about basically more on the palm oil side, because I've worked with a project that working on the sustainable supply chain of palm oil. One thing that I want to tell everybody that is not too familiar with palm is like Indonesia and Malaysia is like brothers, like Sinarmas and Wilmar is basically like not only Indonesia, Malaysia, it's ruling the world of palm oil. But if we want to ask if they're sustainable enough or not, the answer would be those companies are working so hard to ensure that their palm oil is as sustainable as possible. You know best maybe on RSPO, on ISPO, things like that. I traced palm oil from their source with a GIS system. Where does actually this batch of product planted from? And the problem is this: our government keeps on giving the license to open the land. I don't know if it's a problem or it's an opportunity, like but Jessica just said. But that would be the main challenge if we have the political will to change or not. But it's also understandable because the market in Indonesia still relies on palm oil. Like if you here in Germany, like if you go to Lidl, if you go to everywhere, if you see there's like the Gizi mark. What is Gizi mark? The ABCDE, the nutrition score, the Nutri score. If you find the one that is D, it must be with palm oil. If it's like C or B, it's like with the sunflower, right? So it's also market driven, especially if you're working on convincing people and the market to drive the production towards more sustainable product. It might work. At least it works in Germany. So maybe it's a challenge for us as an ASEAN.
I would like to comment on that as well, Pak Iqbal, to add on that. If we in Indonesia use sunflower oil, we have to ship them all the way from Europe. Yeah. So for us, it's more sustainable because the palm oil is in our backyard. Yeah. Instead of the sunflower or the soybean oil, you know, we have problems with soybean meal. So eating tahu and tempe is not sustainable. I'm sorry. We have to import the soybean all the way from US, all the way from Brazil, Argentina, and so on. So just to touch on that, yeah. So maybe knowing our strength also good, yeah. So like you said, for the Europeans, having palm oil is bad, but having sunflower is good, better. Yeah, it makes sense because they have to ship them all the way from here, right? Also to add a bit, Mas Haji, if I may, on the public transportation, yeah, I put in the Zoom chat the sustainability of Transjakarta. So if you haven't been to Jakarta recently, many using Transjakarta is basically just like the buses you have in Germany. It's bright, it's clean, it's quite modern. It's modern, I would say. No more big smoke coming up from the buses. So don't think that the buses is still like your, you know, the 80s or 90s Kopaja, thing like that. Okay. So we just had in University of Indonesia alumni last week. Actually, I just moderated a session where the director of Transjakarta also presented. It was very good. And in fact, now we have MRT also, LRT also. So public transport is better in Indonesia, in Jakarta especially. And if you are willing to share a ride, like taxis or Grabs or Gojeks or those online, they are also available, and I think it's a way. Nowadays, the youngsters, I think many people in Jakarta, I believe, not only the young ones, they choose public transport. But going back to your question, maybe the way we have to move forward is not by blaming who is doing what, because we need everybody's collaboration. Like we are the one who's doing it, you know. When we eat less, we finish our plate. That's my promotion on the reduction of food loss and waste. Yeah. Choose your food wisely, portion wisely, and then finish it. Buy just the necessities, you know. Use electricity also wisely, and it all can be, you know, better. Yeah, that's how I see it. So it's not about, oh, our electricity. This is a common problem with our clients that we've seen with our clients. Yeah, when they see the scope 2 is the highest, then they say like, oh, we have to change to renewables. That's the first thing that they would think. But what our approach is, what causes the big electricity consumption? Trace that and try to find how to be more efficient for their process or for their activities. So in the end, it's all about how we as a human, as a person ourselves, how do we conduct ourselves at home? Do we sort our rubbish? Do we finish our meal? Do we select, efficiency, be more efficient in our daily life? Maybe that's how we can, every one of us can contribute. Thank you.
Thank you, Bu Jessica. And also Mas Iqbal and Mbak Nabila. Just to add a little bit to Mas Adam, you are lucky actually at TUM Freising. There is a newly appointed Professor Livia Kabernard from ETH Zurich. She's the professor for agricultural supply chain sustainability. So maybe you can develop a master thesis with Professor Kabernard, Bu Jessica, and Wilmar, and we look for that to be published at Süddeutsche Zeitung maybe someday. So just an idea if you're interested in palm oil or any other agricultural commodity. Great. So any more questions from the audience? Wow, we have a very active audience today on Saturday. So maybe would you like to come up? So yes, and Mas Torik, we have you noted in our system.
Kasih, Mas. Ya, selamat pagi semuanya, Bapak, Ibu. Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm sorry, but my English is not so good. But I like to try to address my question in English. So my name is Arya, and I'm currently studying civil engineering here in TU München. So I'm very interested in this infrastructure things. Challenges such as high costs and Indonesia's heavy reliance on its manufacturing and industrial sectors add complexities in achieving carbon neutrality. And my question is the infrastructure for renewable energy technologies in Indonesia enough to achieve Indonesia's target in 2045? Thank you.
Thank you, Arya. Selamat siang. Short answer to that question is no. Infrastructure is not ready for renewable energy deployment, especially in Indonesia. As I mentioned, we don't connect our grid in our major islands, and it plays a huge role. I'm not sure if the think tanks are actually thinking about this, but the government, as I know, is considering if they need to have the JETP money, the Just Energy Transition money, to use to procure new renewable energy power plants, or actually making the grid connected. Because as I mentioned earlier, maybe just to make it easier for us to understand, it's like basically not all. Let's say that, for example, the renewable energy potential is in Freising, and then the economy is in Munich. But imagine there is no RE train, there is no S1, so it's not connected. That is the infrastructure that you ask. We don't have that cable. Actually, there is no cable connecting Sumatra and Java, Sumatra and Kalimantan, Kalimantan and Sulawesi. So if I were you, I wish I were you studying civil engineering. It's a super great moment for you to actually take part in the development of renewable energy in Indonesia. That would be my short answer. Do you want it? No.
Agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agree.
Go ahead, Bu.
So agree, Pak Iqbal. Maybe the money could be used for connecting the grid.
Nabila, do you want to add?
Yes, so I think I mentioned this before, but aside from phasing out fossil fuels and scaling up renewables, transmission and distribution system is actually a system that is often overlooked to enable um, the possibility of having 100% renewable energy in our system, because the intermittency of renewables, it hinders the deployment, because there is a mismatch between like the peak load and like the solar peak itself. So we need to have more energy storage in our grid, and we also have to employ demand side measures as well, like vehicle to grid, and some other measures that I'm not really familiar with, like because it's quite technical, but it's an important measure. And yeah, on top of these technological barriers, as I said, there are also other challenges, like from finance perspectives. Like the public sector must help to raise the investment in renewable projects, because of their high upfront costs. Sometimes they are seen as not profitable, compared to fossil fuel power plant. Uh, Thus, we need to have more carbon pricing mechanisms in place, so we do not overlook the social and environmental externalities in this fossil fuel power system. Yeah, I think we also need to deploy other enabling factors to have more renewables in place, because Indonesia has a target to achieve 23% renewable energy, right, in 2025, if I'm not mistaken. But currently, it's only like 13% maybe. Yeah, so we are short of 10%, and it's only 2 years away. Yeah, it's impossible. I know. Yeah, but yeah, hopefully it's looking good in the future.
Maybe just to add a little bit, also from the policy perspective, or political perspective, we would need a lot of political will, basically, again, to connecting with what I explained regarding the interconnectivity, is because some other countries, so for us to understand as well that the emerging countries, we rely on international donors, we rely on international investors, and those investors also want, or donors also want, for the world to know that their money is going to be used for something good. For example, like this country gives Indonesia money to build wind power, solar power. It sounds super sustainable. It sounds super sexy. But the government is scared right now. Like, if we use the money from international to build cables, it doesn't sound like sustainability, right? Like, it's just cables. But the thing is, if we are firm enough to know that, because we understand the context of ours with the intermittency, with the lack of distribution, we kind of needed that. So if you're into some political, I don't know, careers as well, maybe you can voice that up.
Yeah. Thank you for your answer. So now you have many career options. Yeah, you go to civil engineering, or you go to politics, and I think finance was mentioned a lot here. Actually, in Munich, I don't know if you're aware, we have Munich Re. So the reinsurance industry, Allianz, so insurance and also reinsurance also play a big role, because they basically give the rubber stamp to these projects. That if it's high risk or not. So maybe you might also want to think of an internship there too. And yes, Bu Jessica, you want to add?
I have a challenge actually for the students in there, maybe related to infrastructure. Yeah, maybe it's related to renewable energy as well. So in Australia, for example, they already interconnected the sewage or effluent Yeah, they don't go to septic tank. All of the black water goes to a treatment where they are now harvesting it for biogas, human biogas. Yeah. Indonesia, with our population, everything goes to the septic tank. Yeah, there is no interconnection or pipes that actually is a very high potential to be harvested as biogas. So maybe for those of you who are in civil engineer, I have a challenge for you. How can you transform the Indonesian residential housings, everything, into renewable energy that we can harvest? Yeah, how to change that? That's a challenge for the infrastructure. Maybe if you can, because you are in the land of great technology and great minds in Germany, so maybe you can tickle your friends, colleagues, supervisors' brain to help us there. Thank you.
Thank you. So yeah, I drop in one other name. So in tomb pricing, Dr. Ahmad Hijazi is also the expert in biogas. So if you want to work on biogas, please contact him. He's very nice too. So now, yes, we have the safe question from Mastorik. If you're still willing to ask before going to other open questions, maybe, and before closing the session soon.
Where should I stand? Oh, okay. In the podium. Okay. So, hi. So I'm by no means an expert in sustainability, but I'm just curious to ask. So before that, for context, I would like to tell, as someone who's done research on solar cells before, that when developing solar cells, there is quite a lot of costs on electricity. For example, in my laboratory that I worked before, even overnight, the power consumption per hour basically reduces only 80%, and this is because the clean rooms that is used in the buildings, like for example the building of this size, and we only have like a clean room that's basically like 3 times the size of this room, and it consumes pretty much 80% of the electricity used for the whole building. And also we noticed that, well, we use a lot of other let's say exotic metals or rare earth materials that itself it's pretty hard to extract. And even for my research now, we use a lot of xenon, which process is, well, not considered sustainable. I would like to ask whether is it, considering those concerns, whether it's possible to basically continue research in Indonesia. Let's say like in Indonesia, if you want to, I noticed that there's a lot more solar cells that's basically being developed and being like that's basically installed. Basically these solar cell power grids, and I was wondering whether there is whether Indonesia is it feasible for Indonesia to continue basically developing the efficiency of these power cells. Let's say for now, like perovskite is around 27-28%, and whether Indonesia could take part in this global collaboration on developing a more efficient solar cell. Thank you.
Thank you, Astorik.
Sorry, I cannot hear anyone.
Test. Hello, can you hear us now?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the camera also turned off here.
Yes, give us a moment. Maybe it's the EduRoam internet. This will give time to the speakers to think about their answer. So
I actually don't have the knowledge to answer the question about the development of cells. Yeah, that's not my area. So maybe I would let the others, maybe Pak Iqbal or Putri to, Nabila to answer.
okay. Okay, it seems to work now.
Yeah, I will try to answer the question. Just a disclaimer that I'm also by no means an expert in solar cell and solar PV research, but I had this funny exchange with a friend. So she works in researching solar cells, especially perovskite, and she said to me that nuclear is actually the most reliable power, and we should not rely merely on solar power, because as we know, it's intermittent, and maybe the energy that it produces is not that big compared to the land that it is using. And there are also a lot of discourses around the end of life of the power and the extraction of rare earth minerals that it is using to manufacture the solar cell itself. And actually personally, I support nuclear power, especially in the area that it is safe to generate and to produce nuclear power, like in the Europe. I actually do not understand why Germany choose to phase out its nuclear power plant, and now it shifts to turn on it coal power plant again. I think it missed the forecast of renewable energy development and production. Yeah, I think it's just ridiculous to turn off nuclear, because it is a very low carbon energy, and you might be scared of relying wholly on nuclear because of the impact or the risks, like Chernobyl or the Fukushima disasters. But in fact, nuclear is the energy that generates like the least debt compared to other fossil fuels like coal, oil, and gas. And it provides like a very reliable power. It can be used as a base load. And yes, there is discussion or debate about its nuclear waste, also about the non-continuous and non-sustainability of uranium, and so on. But I think it's still our best bet. And yeah, regarding solar power, I think if you need to continue your research to increase the efficiency of solar cell. But because that's the reason why solar cells are becoming cheaper. Like the cost curve has declined like very drastically. I believe that's also contributions from research and development and more deployment in the whole world. And that's what makes renewables are possible to be used, because its low levelized cost of energy, it has fallen below those of fossil fuels. So that's why we can use renewable energy more cheaper than we are to use it, for example, decades ago. And for the minerals part, I don't know, Bu Jessica, but I came across a study, and it's actually like the minerals that we will be using for renewable energy, it's actually nothing or insignificant compared to if we are to rely on fossil fuel power system. But yeah, please correct me if I'm wrong, Bu Jessica. Yeah, maybe that's my take.
A short additional answer for me. I as well don't have the knowledge, but I experienced facilitating a knowledge transfer event workshop with Professor Martin Green. He's like the prophet of photovoltaic. He based in New South Wales in Australia. We created this workshop, and actually I think we are familiar with BRIN, Badan Riset Intelijen Negara of Indonesia. It's basically the research government body, innovation, and I've never had numbers of people that actually joining, like a lot of researchers from Indonesia that is working in BRIN joining that workshop. I don't know what that indicates actually. Does Indonesia is actually a supportive environment to do such research as you ask? Or actually the source of information and the source of knowledge is beyond our current knowledge level? So, but I think you're in Germany. If you want to do that, we have a lot of, I forgot the name. I'll check it later. But we have a lot of material engineers that is working on perovskite, even, I don't know, some other crystals that has more efficiency in Germany, actually, in Leipzig. So I'll connect them with you if you want.
It seems the person who asked the question wants to give a quick follow-up, so I give him the opportunity for this.
Should I be here or in the podium again? Okay. Okay. Hi. Thank you for the great answers. So as a short remark, I'm not working on solar cells anymore. I'm working on lasers now. So about the nuclear power, yes, it is for me personally quite not really shame, but it's quite a sad thing that basically Germany closed down their nuclear reactors, considering that Germany has pretty much the most stringent regulations regarding safety in operating a nuclear reactor. And also regarding research in Indonesia, well, I think it deserves another seminar on that. So, yeah, that's basically just my remark. Thank you very much.
Maybe I just comment on the nuclear. Maybe it's suitable for Europe, even though Germany stopped. Then we have to ask why they stopped. But definitely not suitable for Indonesia. Java especially, we are in the ring of fire. You know, we don't want to demolish ourselves, especially in Java.
Yes, good point. Java has 80 million people, so that's all of
every other day in different parts of the ring.
But yeah, speaking of time, we are almost at the end of our event. So maybe if anyone else has any follow-up questions, you can send them via the Zoom chat. Or if you're in Munich, you can ask them after the event. Or if you're in YouTube, you can still write the chat, I think, and we will note it down and reply to you via email. But yeah, to close our session today, maybe I just give a quick summary before also giving the opportunity to the speakers to give a closing statement. Oh, right. I also have to move. So, whoa. Okay. So actually, yeah, I'm very grateful for the discussion today. I prepared a list of 7-8 questions, which has been intensively discussed with the speakers. However, the participants were very active today, and this was not needed. So maybe applause first to the participants. And also, yeah, it's one of the first and few events that we also try to integrate the broader international community, so not only Indonesians. And based on the number of participants registered, this seemed to work. So they did not attend offline, maybe they attend online, but this seemed to work. So yeah, thank you for those who are interested in Indonesia. As Mas Iqbal said, we'll be one of the main countries in the world in 2045, hopefully. So yes, at the end, if you want to buy any commodity, maybe you will need to buy it from Indonesia. So you need to understand the concepts here. but yeah, so some key takeaways from the different sessions. So from Nabila, we got a good overview on what sustainability is and why young people especially need to play a more active role in sustainability. And you have many opportunities. So yes, you can do internships, you can work in green jobs, but also being aware is good. And from Bu Jessica, we learned the complexity of the sustainability ecosystem in Indonesia, and being sustainable means having all these infrastructure needed. So also a good human capital, but also standards, regulations, and hopefully, I also personally hope that this will be a main topic in the next election. And from Mas Iqbal, we learned also that yes, there's this picture of the motorcycle. Maybe that was me also 8 years ago. That it's very easy to fall into the rabbit hole. But with the optimism that he showed, it's possible, and we can also prosper there. So that was my observation, at least. But I give the floor also to the speakers to give their closing statement, especially with regards to the theme that we have today. So Indonesia, prosperity, sustainability. Where are we going? Yes. So the floor is to the speakers. Maybe we start from the first speaker, if that's okay.
Yes, maybe as I mentioned in my presentation, climate crisis is a wicked problem, it's a super wicked problem, and it needs a system level approach to address it. So we will need all hands on deck. So that means you as young people, please take part in these discourses, and just once you graduate, please apply for green jobs. Thank you.
Yeah, Bu Jessica, go ahead.
Yes, I would have two quotes for from very famous persons. From John F. Kennedy: "Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." Second, from Michael Jackson: "Start with the man in the mirror." Thank you.
You want to add, or it's okay?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. My last underline is my last slide. Basically, I'm just reiterating again, policy is hypocrisy. If there is no implementation, if there's no hard work on making sustainable things sustain, it's just hypocrisy. And actually, I envy you guys because you study in the center of science and knowledge in the world, in Germany, in Switzerland. I don't have that experience. I don't have that opportunity to study. So maybe I'm just happy today that I share with you my head start, but I'll look up to you what kind of magic you can do to the sustainable world in the next 5-10 years. Thank you.
So okay, now time to make magic. And with that, I would like to close the session. Thank you all for attending, and maybe some final announcements from the MC of the event. And with that, thank you from my side.
Hello. Thank you for listening to our very first PPI forum, PPM forum. As